this dude, great guy. And he was like, yeah, even though you don't have a lot of experience, I'll fund it. At the time I was paying 4 points and 12%. So it was
Okay.
super expensive,
Yeah.
but whatever. You
But
got to
you-
pay what you got to pay to play.
You're listening to the We Love Equity Real Estate Show, a podcast that discusses the intricacies of real estate investing with your host, Marcus E. Maloney. Marcus is a real estate investor best known for being the equity king. He's been awarded that moniker because he and his team find amazing real estate deals. He will be talking with investors who have done some transformational things in the real estate industry. They'll discuss their process, their strategies, and how their investments transform their lives and the communities they invest in. We welcome you to the We Love Equity Real Estate Show.
Hello, guys. Welcome to another show. Welcome to another episode of the We Love Equity Real Estate Show. And today we have Ryan Pineda on the line. Ryan is an awesome wholesaler and real estate investor out of the Las Vegas, Nevada area. So you know what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but Ryan is going to share a little bit of his insights with us on, how he's doing 100 deals a year, how he scaled from 1 or 2 deals all the way up to 100 deals a year. So Ryan has flipped hundreds of homes. He's a former baseball player, best-selling author, own a real estate brokerage, own a CPA firm, and has over 30 plus rentals. So Ryan, man, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. So tell me, give me your background and let the listeners know how you got started, how you went from, baseball player into major flipper.
Yeah, man. So I won't touch on my story too long, but, essentially back in 2010, I was coming out of college. I just got drafted to play baseball by the Oakland A's. And for those who don't know, the minor leaguers, they don't make crap. We make like $1,200 a month. So I was like, dude, I need an off-season job. And I ended up getting my real estate license because that was something I could do on my own time and, not have to work a 9 to 5. I could still train for baseball and do all that. So I got licensed at 21 years old and didn't have a mentor or anything. I just was like, well, all right, well, I guess I'll figure this out. My mom was kind of my de facto mentor because she had been a realtor for a really long time. And, she taught me the ropes of just how a transaction goes. But as far as like generating leads and, getting deals done, I had to just kind of wing it. So back then in 2010, it was super difficult as a realtor. As everyone knows, like prices were super low. Nobody was buying. Everyone was in foreclosure. It was like pretty much the worst time you could get started as a realtor. So I wish I would have been an investor back then.
Yeah.
If I would have known that, I'd have probably quit baseball and just, been crazy. Yeah. But, no, so after a few years of being a realtor in kind of tough conditions, I gave up. I was like, this sucks. My baseball career, I was focused on that anyway. And so I started just flipping couches and like all this crap on Craigslist to make money. And I was doing really good at it.
Wait. You said flipping couches?
Yeah, man. So after I got out of, I kept my license, but I stopped, practicing. And
Okay.
I was like, well, I need a job in the off season. Like, what am I going to do? I'm still only making $1,200 a month. And so I had this idea with my wife. We had just we just got married and we just moved into our first apartment. And so I bought all the furniture used and I got a great deal on all of it. And I was like, dude, I bet you I could sell all this for 2 to 3 times as much as I paid. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try it. And so I bought a couch that I knew was a good deal, just threw it in our apartment and then relisted it, sold it, made a couple $100. And I was like, dude, this is tight.
Right.
And so
pretty easy, huh?
Yeah. And so then I ended up buying a truck, a little $1,500 truck on Craigslist and made a business out of it. Ended up getting storage units to store it, ended up kind of building my first business, like with systems and hiring a guy to help me deliver stuff and pick up stuff. And
wow,
that business was really good. I mean, we were making anywhere from $6,000 to $8,000 profit a month. And the problem was I just was like, dude, this, I don't want to do this my whole life. And I was pretty much, that was my first experience with realizing like the scale of like, dude, I've reached the ceiling of what I could do here. I'm buying everything I can possibly buy. Like, what's the next step? I mean, I could do it in other cities, but that's super difficult to do,
Right.
So I didn't know it at the time, but I was learning all these business principles for later on. And eventually, around 2015, my baseball career was kind of coming to a close, and the flipping couches stuff was paying the bills, and I was super grateful for it. But I finally was like, dude, what am I going to do? So I prayed to God. I was like, God, what do you want me to do? I was on our 1-year anniversary with my wife, and I won't get into all the details of it, but eventually I found bigger pockets, and I learned that you could flip houses with no money. And
the main thing that you just want to jump in here real quick, Ryan. The main thing that you had was you had that hustler's mentality, man. You was
right.
like, hey, I got to find something to do. I got to find a way to eat. Let me figure this out. And he was like, okay, well, let me take this gamble. Hey, if I could flip a couch, how come I can't flip a TV or a table or something like that? So yeah, that definitely takes that hustler mentality, and you didn't just sit on the sideline and say, well, let me just get out here and try and find a job.
Right. And I've never done that, I'm like, man, I need to go find a job, or I'm like, how can I make money? And
Yep.
yeah. And then houses was a natural progression, because as a realtor, I understood value and I understood getting a good deal. It was just, I didn't have money to buy it. That was the only thing holding me back. And so in 2015, I still didn't even really know about wholesaling. I had heard of it, and I was like, that seems too good to be true. I don't know that I, believe that. But I did learn about hard money. And I was like, hard money is what I've been looking for. I could fix and flip for sure. And so ended up meeting a hard money lender here. And I was like, I'm just going all in as a flipper. And so
how did you find that hard money lender?
Google. I just was like Las Vegas hard money lenders, and, called every one of them.
Simple as that.
Yeah, dude, great guy. And he was like, yeah, even though you don't have a lot of experience, I'll fund it. At the time I was paying 4 points and 12%. So it was super expensive, but whatever. You got to pay what you got to pay to play.
Yeah, you was getting in the game, man. And that's what I tell people. I don't know where to find a hard money lender. I don't know where to find, an aggressive attorney or a real estate agent. Google is right there. Just ask, and that's just what you did.
Right. It's crazy. Back when I started in 2010, social media wasn't what it was today, and even people didn't have money. Hard money lenders weren't just open and available like they are today 10 years ago. So yeah, now I would say in today's climate, no one has an excuse, it's much different. But anyway, so, I meet this guy, and he's like, I'll fund you if you find a deal. You need 20% down. And I was like, well, I don't have 20%. So I ended up maxing out all my credit cards I cash advanced them all.
Okay.
And I got 50 grand from all my credit cards. Luckily I had great credit and no debt. So I'd done something right. And, but once I maxed them all out, I had bad credit for years. But anyways, that's beyond the point. So I found my first deal maybe a month and a half later, and bought it.
How did you find that deal, Ryan?
The very first deal I bought, I found it on Craigslist, and just wholesaler was advertising it. And I was like, these numbers look pretty good. So, ended up meeting him there, and he was also a flipper who just was out of capital. And he ended up being a nice little mentor for me at that time, because I was new and I was trying new things. And, I was like, what would you do on this house? And he was like, here's what I would do if I was flipping it. And, I kind of leaned on him for, my first year in the business, hey, I got this property. What do you think? And, he was gracious enough to help me out.
So you found that mentor by taking action. You found that mentor, that's what I can't remember the saying, but it says when the student is ready to learn, the teacher will appear. You were ready to get out there and take action, and you just happened to find this wholesaler that had this deal, and now he's coaching you for the next year. Right.
And, it wasn't I was, working for him or anything like that. And some people do go that route. It was just if I had a question and I didn't know the answer, I could text him. He was going to help me out. And, so I was grateful for that. And, that first, I bought that first deal. And then a month later, I found another deal in the MLS. and I had a little bit of money left. And so I called a different private money or hard money lender. I was like, hey, like, I don't have much money, but I have a deal. Can you fund it? Like, I need as little down payment as possible. He was like, yeah, just give me $7,000 down and you could buy it. I was like, tight. So put
Wow.
$7,000 down, bought it. And then that house ended up selling before the other house because it was just like a wholesale.
Okay.
And so that very first one that sold, I ended up making $25,000 like within 45 days. And I was like, this is crazy.
So going back, Ryan, tell us what a hotel is for those who don't know.
Yeah, certain people have different definitions. For me, I consider a wholesale something that you buy and do very minimal. You know, you might paint it, you might put carpet, or you might just sell it the way it is and trash it out or whatever. Like, you know, but I wouldn't, you know, you're getting it done within a week.
Okay. So guys, a hotel is basically a deal that you found that was below market value and it had so much equity in it, you really didn't have to do anything to it. And you just, you know, list it back with an agent or put it on an MLS and somebody give you, you know, full market value for it. So,
Right.
All right, sweet. So you got this hard money loan, maxed out credit cards, doing these 2 flips, and this is all within, you know, a few years, right?
No, that was within a few months.
A few months. Okay. So
Right.
So let me go back. So you started in 2010 and this is
So in 2010, you know, I started as an agent, didn't really do any flips.
okay,
I had
gotcha.
bought a personal residence and sold it, but I don't consider that, you know, the start of my
Okay.
flipping career. 2015, when I found that hard money loan, that's when I personally think I started flipping.
Okay. So so you found bigger pockets. Why did you say, okay, this is what I want to do? Although you went the agent route and you didn't like doing that, you know, what made
Right.
you say, all right, I'm going to get into real estate this way?
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what I just said with my primary. So when I became licensed, I ended up buying a primary residence and I sold it like 2 years later after I'd lived in it. It wasn't even a good deal. It was just, it appreciated.
Right.
And I sold it and made, you know, I don't even remember what we made, like $30,000-$40,000. And me and my cousin bought it together. And so we split it. And I was like, yeah, this is cool. Like I just made some good money. And then I ended up buying another primary, and instead of living in it, I ended up selling it like 6 months later because I was like, dude, I got a good deal on this. Like, let's just sell it. So I made some money again, but those were just conventional loans. You know, I just appreciation and getting a decent deal. You know, I didn't know what I was doing.
You saw the opportunity. I mean, you and your cousin bought this property and you say, hey, a year later, we bought it for X. It's worth Y. Let's cash out.
Yeah, I did not think I was going to be a flipper, you know, and then I had a little bit of history doing it. And then in 2015, I was like, well, I've had success doing this. Like, I know I could do this. I just need money. And so when I found bigger pockets and I learned about hard money, I was like, dude, I'm going to crush this if, you know, this is legit.
Okay. So you really just took it seriously. At first, It was like, okay, this is my primary residence. Oh, I sold it. Look at how much I made. Now it's like, oh, I can really do this. Let me be serious about this.
This can be a career.
Yep. And get educated and do it. So what were some of the struggles kind of getting started, you know, in 2015 that you ran into? Because I'm sure it wasn't all peaches and cream and all roses, right?
No. I mean, obviously the first struggle, which for most people was money. And so back then I still didn't really know what wholesaling was. And so I'm just like, where do I get the money from? You know, and I didn't know anybody with money. My parents didn't have money. I didn't have family with money. And I was like, dude, the only way I can get money is maxing out my credit cards. And I was just like, I got to do what I got to do. And I think, you know, 9 out of 10 people won't take that risk. Right. And, you know, when I tell people my story, I speak and I'm like, guys, caveat, I am not telling you to do this. Okay. I'm just telling you what happened, you know, and it's made me who I am, definitely. And I've always been very, I would say, risky. Even today, it's like, all right, do we got to stretch ourselves a little bit to get this deal? Like, all right, let's do it. You know?
Yep. That's the only way you get to the next level, man, is you got to push beyond those comfort points and where you were comfortable at. So what would you tell somebody getting started now if they wanted to be fix and flipper or wholesaler or whatever, what would you tell them in order to, get into the game?
Right. So I got this question so many times on social media and friends and family, and that was actually why I wrote my book. So this is now what I tell people. I say, if you want to learn to do this game, just read my book, because it's
Gotcha.
literally, you can see it's pretty thin. It's 100 pages. Like, it's the guidebook. And it's not like one of these books that kind of leaves stuff out and then, we want to upsell you later. Like, you could learn to flip just from reading that book. You don't need to be coached by me or go get someone else. Like, all the steps are there. Now, granted,
Okay.
coaching and things have their value, but for those on a budget, that's the best resource that, there is. And you'll learn the game from just that.
And that's Flip Your Future by Ryan Pineda,
Yep, it's
guys.
on Amazon. And actually, if you guys want it for free, you could go to futureflipper.com and I actually give it for free. But if you go to Amazon, you're going to pay $15.
Okay. I'll make sure I put all of this information in the show notes, Ryan.
Cool.
So now, what was your tools that you use for lead generation? Because I know getting started in real estate, that's the hardest thing, outside of having the money, it's really finding the deals, so
Right.
How are you finding these deals? Were you using any online resources, offline resources? How are you finding these deals for you to invest in?
Right. So obviously I didn't have any money. I needed it all for a down payment. I think it's a complicated question in today's society because everyone wants to start out as a wholesaler. I would say maybe, 4 out of 5 people want to start as wholesalers because they don't have money. And so everyone always asks, like, how should I market? How should I market? And there's a lot of ways you can market, but the way I started was the opposite. I started as a flipper and as a realtor. And so I knew how to find deals on the MLS. So that first year, I pretty much bought every deal off the MLS, and, made money. And like I said, the very first one was a wholesaler. And, from there, I bought 5 deals my first year, just no marketing, nothing. Okay. Next year, I go into 2016. Same deal. I'm like, I don't want to market. Like, I'll just, like, by then I knew what wholesaling was and all that. I fully understood it. And I'm like, I'll just find wholesalers in MLS. So I did that and bought 20. Still wasn't wholesaling. I was just flipping. And then 2017, same deal. I did not market or anything. And I bought 50 homes in 2017, just with MLS and wholesalers.
Wow. So basically you use MLS and your relationships to buy 50 deals in 1 year. Wow,
Right.
That's amazing. So guys, you hear it from Ryan. You got to get out there. You can't just sit behind your computer. You got to get out there. You got to go and meet people. Got to go to some of these networking events. I'm not saying go to these seminars and, whip out your credit card and spend $30,000 to a guru, but get out there and meet people. I mean, that's kind of one of the ways that I got started. I moved directly to Phoenix from Chicago, didn't know anyone here. I just started going to the little seminars and boot camps and meeting people. And That's how I got started and met Justin Colby and Gabe and them guys. So now you went from, because I know you missed a lot in there, Ryan. You went from 1 deal to 2 deal to 5 to 50. How did that transpire, man? How did you go from 1 deal to 5?
Yeah. So kind of the evolution. I took a very crazy path as a flipper because, even after the 50, then we went to over 140. And then last year we did over 100. So I would say in my early years, I did 5 and 20. I didn't change what I was doing. I just got better at it. It was like, okay, I can understand what deals are going on now. Okay, I've made a little bit of money. Now I can put more down payments on hard money loan. Like, I was doing the same thing. I was just maxing out credit cards, not spending any of my profit, just reinvesting it into the next deal. And I think another thing I did that many people don't, besides not spending frivolously, I didn't buy my Lambo yet. I don't have a Lambo. And I'm not going crazy. Just, oh man, I made $50,000, time to, go crazy.
Right,
so I didn't do any of that. Yeah. I didn't splurge at all. And I still don't really do it today. And I also didn't buy any rentals at that point. I think a lot of people want to get in that passive income very early, too early in the game, in fact. And that's my philosophy is a little different than most. I'm like, guys, learn to flip and wholesale and do that effectively before you ever start buying rentals, because rentals will always be there. If you can learn to
Yep.
find deals and you can learn to, fix them up and all that, you can buy rentals. Okay. But once you stick your money into a rental, you can't flip or do that anymore because your money's stuck.
Yep.
So I pretty much kept the cash moving is the point. And so it just kept snowballing and snowballing, and I was able to buy more. But in 2017, what happened for me that was the big key was I met my first private money lender. I had already built a little bit of a resume those first 2 years, but by year 3, I finally met someone with money, and I go, hey man, and I met him in Bible study. So we had a really good relationship. And I said, look, if you want to invest, I'll pay you the same what I'm paying these hard money guys. So I was paying them 3 points and 12% by that time. And I was like, but here's the deal. Money is my biggest issue still. If I want to scale this, I have to eliminate the money problem.
Yep.
And I was like, so I need deferred interest. I need 100% financing, and I need you to pay rehab. Because up to that point, my hard money was always a down payment, or it was, hey, I'm covering rehab and I'm stroking all these payments. So he was like, I'm totally fine with all that. He's like, I get it, because he's a business guy. He's like, I know cash is always a young entrepreneur's biggest problem. And so he was really the only reason I was able to jump so quick, because, from there I was like, all right, I'm buying every deal possible. So I bought every deal. And then I was like, all right, I don't have enough contractors. So I'm going to find more contractors. All right. And so
how did you have that conversation with him, that initial conversation? Was it he just knew what you were doing and he wanted to be a part?
Right.
Or how did that evolution take place?
Yeah, so we had met at church maybe a year prior, right? And so obviously when you're getting to meet someone, like, what do you do? I'm like, hey, I flip houses, what I do. And he's like, yeah, I'm retired. I sold my businesses. I trade stocks now. I was like, well, if you ever want to invest in real estate, let me know if you don't want to trade stocks anymore. And so nothing really materialized. I didn't sales pitch or anything like that. But I think from the year of getting to know him, he had continued to see what I was doing. Right. And that's something we can touch on later about social media and building social proof. But he had seen what I was doing. And he was like, after a year, he goes, hey, I want to talk to you about investing. And so we talked about, we played golf. I remember it like it was yesterday. And he goes, what is it you want? And, we kind of talked about those terms I talked about. And he goes, okay, I'm going to start you off on $500,000. That should get you 2 to 3 houses.
That's a good blessing.
Great. Yeah. And I go, all right, perfect. I go, I will show you what we can do, with these. And so those 3 flips went really quick. He goes, all right, I'm going to jump you to $1 million. I said, great, let's do it. They're still moving quick. He's making a lot of money. I'm making a lot of money. He's like, you know what? I'm going to jump you to 2 million, just wheeling and dealing. He's like, hey, I got my friends. They want to invest. So friends come in and, it just all snowballs. And, as your track record builds, as your reputation builds, and you make more people money and, everybody, wants to start working with you.
Yeah.
And now I don't have a problem raising money. Like that's never an issue, because now I have more money than I have deals. Like, now it's just, how do we get cheaper money and all that stuff.
And that's one of the good things that you touched on there, Ryan, is that, you had this relationship with him and your responsibility was to let me show this guy what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, and to give him a good return on his money. So after, 2 years, 3 years in doing this, you have $1 million liquid where you can go and buy all of these properties, and that can go a long way in Vegas, So, and then you provided that proof to him. And then he said, hey, well, let me tell my buddies, just in small talk, just in chat, hey, yeah, I'm working with this guy, we're doing some flips and, I'm getting 10, 12% on my money.
Right.
Well, let me get a part of that, and that's how that spawns in its birth. So good job, man, for that, especially you being aggressive, at such an early age in your investing career, so, from 2015 to 2019, you got $2 million to play with. as far as, building your strategy, that's an excellent position to be in.
Yeah. We raised that money really quick. And now it's, like I said, we pretty much have unlimited capital to buy deals. And so, it's a blessing for sure.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure your hard money lenders hated to see you go, but you
They
had to
did.
take your business elsewhere.
Right. And I tell people all the time now, I'm like, hey, because I get asked for referrals and I always refer them. I go, hey, he might be a little more expensive than these nationwide guys now, but I tell you what, he'll take care of you. And, if you got problems with down payment and stuff, he'll find a way to make the deal work. So I've referred him a lot of business too.
Perfect. So, in regards to how you were finding these deals and how you were doing this, how did your license, because you're still a licensee, correct?
Not anymore. I gave it up a year ago. I own a
Okay.
brokerage, but I'm not licensed.
Okay. Wow, that's different. Okay.
I don't want the liability.
Yeah. So tell me about that. Tell me about that difference. I know you said you don't want the liability, but it seems like it would be a benefit to you because you can say, hey, all right, the properties that we flip, we can turn around and list. So is that still what you guys are doing, or?
Yep. So we're still majority fix and flip. And, I was licensed for, I think, 9 years. And like I said, I gave it up last year because I realized I don't really need a license at this point. Like, I don't have normal clients. Like, I'm not like out there prospecting and trying to do retail. Yes, we list them all and we list them at my brokerage and it builds brand recognition and credibility. But I have a partner at the brokerage who's the broker, and he's basically the integrator and does everything over there. And so I told him, the day I was ready to drop my license, I go, hey, actually the day before we ever opened the brokerage, I go, look, here's my vision for all of this. Like, I don't want to be the best realtor in Las Vegas. I want to be the best investor. Okay. And I want you to be the best broker in Vegas. And the way we're going to do that is this: I'm going to funnel all my listings to you. You're going to build up your brand and name like instantly because of this. And it's happened, and it's better for him to gain the recognition and to, get all of those transactions and other things. And I don't worry about it at all. I mean, he does a great job. Like, he sells all the properties. I don't even know they sell, like, freaking, we make our money, and he's got my best interest at heart. And, the brokerage is well taken care of and growing the way that it should. So it's worked out great. And at that point, it was just like, well, I don't even need a license at this point. I own a brokerage. Like, if I have to refer a listing out or the brokerage will make money.
Right. Well, that's good, man. So we're going to take a break real quick, Ryan. And when we come back, I want to talk about your best and your worst deal. So be prepared to jump into that.
Sounds good.
PropStream is the industry's #1 tool for locating distressed properties and connecting with highly motivated sellers. With 100% coverage across the U.S., PropStream provides a deep dive into any property's specific details, making it easy to generate lists of distressed properties and contact to the owners. No other product or service can compare. Gain access to MLS property details like expired listings. You can pull accurate comps, even sale prices in non-disclosure states. This information is typically reserved for licensed real estate professionals, but it is also available to you in PropStream. Gain access to unlimited nationwide property search, comparable home sales, targeted marketing lists, and owner contact lookup, built-in marketing tools, hundreds of filters to search and sort leads. Start your free 7-day trial now by going to proud.propstreampro.com/WeLoveEquity.
All right, coming back, Ryan. You've scaled to doing all of these deals, 10 plus deals a month. Tell me about that worst deal. Tell me about that deal that you're like, oh, I learned so much from this deal because of all of these mistakes. So let's kind of dig into that deal, man.
Yeah. What's funny is, like, we tend to dwell on the bad ones better more than the good ones. Like, I could tell you, like, as far as best deal net profit wise, we wholesaled one for 98,000, and I don't even know what happened. My team did it and we made the money. So I couldn't even give you the good story on it.
Hey, that's a good position to be in. Make 98 grand and don't know how it happened.
I really couldn't tell you how it happened. And we've had other big rips close to that, but as far as net goes, that's the best. But I would say my favorite deal is this apartment complex I own here in Vegas. I personally negotiated that one, so I know exactly what happened.
Okay.
And
How
this
many
guy,
units? How many doors?
it's a 10 unit.
Okay.
So he's out in Cali, owned the complex for like 15 years. He was a tax lien, and we had talked with him for months. And I go, "What do you want for this?" And honestly, I didn't even really know commercial. Like, I honestly didn't really know what it was worth too much. But he's like, "I want 400,000." And I'm like, "Okay, what's up with this condition? The tenants, nobody's paying rent. There's people are selling AKs, and like, I'm not lying. It was crazy. Like, and all this stuff. And then I go to walk it. I can't get in because it's scary, dude.
Right.
And I see from the outside that it looks like one of the units is burnt down. And so sure enough,
Wow.
I pull the window up and it's just burnt to a crisp. And I take pictures for this guy. I go, "Hey, dude, do you have any idea like what's going on with this?" And he's like,
Right.
"No." And I go, "Dude, you have a totally burnt down unit, all this stuff." He's like, in shock. And so I say, "Dude, I'll give you 200,000 for this property." Like, I was like, evicting 10 units is going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
This place needs a full rehab, all that stuff. So we end up, he's like, "No, I can't take that. I can't take that." After a month, we negotiate for like a month. And finally we come to this agreement of, "Hey, I'm going to buy it for 300,000 and he's going to seller finance me for 10 years. And all I have to pay is the tax liens." And so he owed about 15,000. So I pay off his tax liens. That's it. That's my down payment. He seller finances me $300,000 and I don't have to make him payments for 3 years. So
Wow.
I negotiated that because I was like, I don't know when I'm going to start making money on this. Like, I got to evict these guys to fix it. He was like, "I get it. 3 years, you don't have payments. After that, you have 7 years at 5% interest only." So I'm like, great. So
still a good deal.
yeah.
Amazing.
So I end up finally evicting all the tenants after like 6 or 8 months. Because what would happen was we would evict someone and then they would go move into a different unit. It was like,
squatting.
It was a nightmare. Yeah. And so we finally evicted everyone. We finally, got everyone out. We renovated it, and now it's producing great cash flow. After about a year, we finally got it stabilized. Each unit's renting for 600 to 700, and I don't have a payment. I'm making 6-7 grand a month, free and clear. And it took about, I would say, 200,000 to fully renovate it the way that we wanted. And so we're all in it for about 5, and I think it's worth about 800,000. So to me, that that's our best deal, because I'm gonna make 6 grand a month for the next 2 more years, while it's free interest. And then even after that, at 5% of 300,000 is like $1,250 a month in payment. So my
nothing.
cash flow,
there's nothing.
So
and
that's
you got
my favorite deal.
And you got a complete appreciating asset that's been recently renovated, so that's a
Tax
good deal.
Benefits, all the stuff that goes with it.
How did you find that one? Because, I'm assuming it was off market.
So actually it was totally random because we weren't marketing for commercial. This guy, he just owned a house and we had cold called him, and he was like, "No, I don't want to sell that house, but I got this apartment I would sell." And so my team was like, "All right, well, tell me the details." And like I said, I didn't even know what it was worth. I think I was just, "I'll give you 200,000. I don't think I can lose." For 10 units.
Just throw you something out there.
Yeah. And it worked. So it goes to show too, like, you don't need to know everything. Like, you can make deals and figure it out as you go.
Yep. And also with that, you were looking for single families, and I guess your lead manager or whatever was like, "Okay, well, you don't have a single family, but tell me more about this multifamily. Let's kind of dig into that and see what we can come up with." Although you guys didn't know much about multifamily, you still got the information. And then you said, "Well, we're going to figure it out. Got to be something here," especially once you saw the condition. It's like, "Hey, man, it's something here." So that's good. That's good. Yep. So what about this worst deal, man?
Oh, where do you want to begin, man? I've had so many bad deals. we could talk all day about the big ones and the, the normal ones, but, I've lost 20 to 30 grand on many, many deals.
Okay.
I think at this point in my career, I've bought over 300 homes, and, last year was the first year I had significant losses on a lot of deals. And
Okay.
mainly because we had a market shift in Vegas, and, things just started sitting for a long time. We had to drop prices. It was the first year I ever really had like a flat, stale market. And so
Okay.
up until that point, in 15 to 18, it's just pure appreciation.
Right.
And so it hit a lot of mistakes. And 18, especially in 18, Vegas had the most appreciation in the nation. So I got into bad habits of having unlimited money. So I'm like, I could buy anything. And then also, buying a house and then later reselling it for 20 grand more than I thought. And so I was, 20 grand deals were turning into 40,
40, right.
And then deals that went over budget, that, whatever I would have broke even on, I was still making 20. And so all my mistakes were hidden. I was just buying everything, dude.
Yep.
And then, what ended up happening towards the end of the year in 2018, we started to see the slowdown. And that was actually what got me into wholesaling. Was I was like, well, we need to start like doing something different with, because these aren't selling. Now I was expecting this cash flow to come in, and now it's not. So we need to get some quick cash. And so it was a blessing in disguise, because it led to us wholesaling, which has been good as well. Just adding that piece to our business. But all of those deals I ended up buying in the winter ended up being bad deals, because they took 6 to 9 months to sell. And when you got interest payments and all that stuff, because my lenders, they're still, on interest-based loans. Like, so at the end of the day, they're going to make their money regardless. Like, if we don't do what I thought, I'm paying the price. And so I had many, many deals where I lost, 20 grand, 30 grand, 10 grand. And, we lost hundreds of thousands on bad deals last year. So
what was your mindset going through those losses?
It was humbling, because you end up making millions throughout your career, and you think you're invincible. And then you finally have, that first like losing season. I had heard of it with I'm like, okay, these investors, they lost all their money in 07, 08, right? Yep. And you hear about it. And, I'm like, okay, that ain't going to be me. And then you finally, you lose, and you're like, man, like, okay, and it was great to see, because it was basically like I can't even call it recession, but just like a taste of what a dip looks like.
Okay.
Right. Because I'd never tasted it. And so, I don't want anyone to feel bad for me. We still made a lot of money despite that. And it was just such a great learning lesson, and it helped me get more disciplined. And so that's why we bought less deals in 19 than we did in 18, because it was like, well, these sketchy deals, we ain't buying them. Like, I was buying those in 18, but, no more.
Yeah. And it helped you, you had to pivot. So it was like, okay, well, we can't continue down this track. Let's pivot and see what this wholesaling is like. And you became very successful at that. So with that pivot, Ryan, how did that pivot take place? I know you went through, the dip. Were you just finding those same deals that were on the MLS and then just wholesaling them, or were you doing some marketing then?
So 2018 was the first year we started marketing. So, like I was talking about, from 15, 16, 17, I got them all off wholesalers and MLS, right? And then I actually retired from baseball in 17. So middle of 17. So I was actually playing baseball still while I was doing all this.
Wow. Okay.
And once I retired, and I obviously had success in real estate, I was like, all right, I'm going to do this legit. Like, now I'm fully devoted to real estate. So that was when I was like, I'm opening a brokerage. I'm getting an office for the first time. I'm, doing it the way that I want to do it, because I'm devoted. And so in 18, I said, all right, we're going to start marketing. That's the only way we can do 100 plus, because that was my goal.
Okay.
And so we started marketing. I hired in-house cold callers. I, did all the different channels, and, we had success. We ended up buying way more through all the ways we've always bought, wholesalers and MLS, but now we added marketing to the fold too.
Okay. So was cold calling your primary marketing source?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Cold calling is our primary one. I had in-house guys, and then I eventually transitioned to VAs. So that was our bread and butter for pretty much all of 2018. But as we got into that dip, I ended up, seeing what was happening. I'm like, all right, these things aren't selling. They're not selling. I'm like, we got to make a switch. Like, let's wholesale anything we can,
Okay.
So we ended up, starting to blast out all of the deals we got, whether they were in-house, whether it was an MLS deal or whatever. And, there were people that wanted them. And so I said, all right, we'll sell these, and, that'll help us with our cash flow issue and, all that. And it's been a great source since, and I've kind of adjusted my business model because of it, to something kind of different now.
So how did it go with the VAs? Because I know it can be a little challenging sometimes finding the right VAs and staying on top of them and managing them and things like that. How did you do that?
Yeah, so not very well. It's funny because I've been in, this is my 6th year investing full time, 11th year in real estate. And so you would think like, man, this guy who's had success and been in it for a while, like should like have everything dialed in and perfect. And it's not the case. Like, for one, this is really only our 3rd year actually marketing. And so I tell my students and other people all the time, like, if you choose to market, it's a whole nother beast. All right. It's not real estate investing. It's a different business.
Yep.
And
it's advertising.
It's advertising and sales. That's all it is.
Yep.
And so, when I started, I'm like, oh man, like I see these other wholesalers, they're just, getting it so simple.
Yeah. And that's the way it looks. It looks like it's so easy in the beginning, but a lot of people don't know what's going on the back end, as far as lining up people, managing and making sure you follow, these protocols and making sure you're getting the mail out or getting on the phone, doing these cold calling. So with that being said, this was only your guys' 3rd year marketing. How did it go? What was it?
Yeah,
what guys using scripts? What were you doing for the people that's looking to get into cold calling?
Yeah. So when I first started, I literally thought it was going to be the simplest thing ever. I'm like, okay, these wholesalers who I don't think are that talented or smart are getting deals, like, perfect. I'll just hire a bunch of guys, give them a list, and let's roll. And so that's what I did. No scripts, no training, nothing. And it's funny looking back at it, but surprisingly, we got deals. I just had guys who were able to push through it, even with bad coaching and training and, systems. And so for 2018, the first year, that was our big learning curve, was like, all right, I did the in-house. I ended up hating it because I hated just these guys cold calling all day in front of me, and it was annoying and managing them. I switched to VAs, way cheaper, and I ended up getting the same results for way less. So VAs were great, and I realized with VAs you need like a local guy to manage them. So we found a local guy who ended up recruiting other cold callers, and he makes his spread off everyone he manages, and it's a great thing. So that's how we've always run our cold calling, and we've had as many as 15 cold callers, and now I think we have like 5. So I've made the mistake of thinking, oh, if I just get more cold callers, then it's more deals. And it doesn't work that way. In the end, it's really always still about accountability and quality. And even with the 5 we have now are the best 5 that have, weeded themselves out, and they do just as good because the other 10 were, not good.
Laggers versus you guys. That's good. You guys were able to pull out the leaders and really get rid of the laggers. So now with the wholesaling, are you guys keeping any of those deals and you're flipping, cherry picking from the good ones?
So kind of, this is how I was getting at with my model changing. When I first started wholesaling, because people knew me as a big flipper, they're like, why are you wholesaling this? What's wrong with the deal? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, guys,
skeptics.
I'm like, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, this is just something we're going to be doing, going forward. And it was like a few months before people were like, all right, we'll buy deals. Like, cause we kept sending them out, and they're like, okay, this is a regular thing. So that was kind of funny making that switch. But no, now our model is pretty simple. And this is what I tell people, so that it's like, okay, I'm not cherry picking good deals or whatever. I look at it like this, like if I'm buying off the MLS or from a wholesaler, almost 90% of the time I'm taking it down myself, mainly because there's not enough meat to really do
Yeah.
anything with it. So most of the time I'm taking it down myself. On the marketing side, those are usually the meatiest deals. And so we blast them out no matter what. So
Okay.
we will always blast it out. And I myself, as the flipper, have to, offer what I would offer. And that's how we determine our assignment fee for these guys and how they get paid. So
Gotcha.
it's just fair. If I'm not the highest offer, then it is what it is.
It
Like,
is. Yeah.
we're selling it to someone else. And so that's how we look at it. And then the other way I look at it is, for instance, I've got to make 3-to-1 if I'm going to flip it. And so if the assignment fee is 5,000, let's just say, but I can make 15 or more flipping it, I'm going to flip it.
Okay.
If the assignment's 20K and I'd make 35K flipping it, well, let's just assign it,
Yeah.
So
Hedge the
that's kind
risk.
of how we do it. Right. So
Okay.
if it's not 3-to-1, I'm flipping it.
Okay. That's a good model. Okay.
Yeah.
And then now making that transition from flipper to wholesaler, like you said, some of the buyers were a little skeptical. Where did you find your buyers list? How did you build that buyers list? Because you was a flipper. You didn't need, buyers.
Right. So, I knew the big players in town. You got to know your competition.
Yep.
But really, in Vegas, it's a big city, but it's a small town, man. There's a few guys doing volume, and everyone else is pretty much just, doing a couple here or there.
Gotcha.
So it's like, I would guess 80% of the deals are going to flow through me and 3 other guys,
Okay.
So it's not hard to sell them. But yeah, as a wholesaler, obviously you want to maximize every deal. So yeah, finding those one-off guys who, will pay a lot for one is important. But starting out, it wasn't hard to find a buyer's list.
Okay. Perfect. Because I know quite a few people have that question, what should I find first, the deal or the buyer? I say, hey, try and do both at the same time. Why go either or, So, well, Ryan, right now we're going to roll into our hot seat, man. I'm going to put you on a hot seat. I want you to answer these questions as quickly as possible. You gave us a lot of content, a lot of information here, which I'm going to make sure we have all of this information down in the show notes, plus how to get in contact with you if people got any questions. But let's roll into the hot seat right now, man. All right. So starting over, what would you do different?
Back in 2010, I would have gotten the investing game. I wouldn't have became a realtor.
Okay. Gotcha. What is your greatest commodity outside of capital?
I would say my ability to build relationships. That is what's built my business from the beginning. Building relationships with agents, with wholesalers, with lenders. Like, I'm so big on relationships. I think a lot of people nowadays are focused on the marketing side of things, and like you said, being behind the computer and doing no, get out there and freaking meet people. That's what it's about.
Yep. What drives your ambition?
Dude, this is a tough question to ask. You could get deep and say family and, providing and, serving and doing all these things. But I'll tell you, really deep down, what gets me up in the morning every day is just my competitive nature and my nature to improve every day with, that's how I was as an athlete. I wanted to get better every day. I wanted to be in the big leagues. I wanted to work on my body, work on my swing, work on my skill. And once I retired, it's you do that for 27, 28 years. You don't just all of a sudden not do that.
Right.
Yeah. And so I'm all right, well, how do I become the best investor there is? And it's okay, well, I'm just going to work on myself. I'm going to work on building relationships, mastering marketing, mastering all aspects of this business. How do we get better at construction management? How do we do all of these things to the best we can? And I just am so driven on improving my business, myself, every day, because then that leads to all the other stuff. It leads to providing for my family, to serving my community, to helping others, to all the other answers that you would typically see.
Okay. All right. Sounds great. So what do you believe is your greatest challenge, Ryan?
When you scale, to me anyways, the greatest challenge is when you hit your first ceiling. And we had that happen last year, where we experienced all this growth, 5 flips, 20 flips, 50 flips, 140 flips. And then we have our first dip, right?
Yep.
So we finally hit our first ceiling, and I'm like, how do we break through this? Like, what do
Yeah.
we do to get to 200 deals, And so I hired a consultant. I joined a mastermind. I did things to get out of my comfort zone again. And we totally revamped how we do things in our corporate structure. And, I would say now, once we've hit that ceiling, we have a game plan for breaking through. And, it involves having better systems, having better people. We've gotten to where we've gotten kind of winging it, but, there are people who've already done way more than I've done. So it's like, why not just steal their structure, and hire them to tell you how they did it?
Yeah, that's it. Why blaze the trail when somebody else blazed it? Just follow in their footsteps.
Right,
Sweet.
right.
So what's the latest business or real estate book that you've read, man, that you would recommend someone getting started?
Yeah, so I actually just read Atomic Habits, and I was
Sweet.
blown away by that. I was telling everybody about it on Instagram and everything. Like, I love that book. That's one of my top 5 now for sure.
Okay. And you know what? I have to read it. I haven't read it yet. I had another guest, John Casman, out of Cincinnati, and he really highly recommended it. So I'm going to put this back on the list, man. Atomic Habits.
Yep. You hear it twice. It's,
that's confirmation.
Shame on you, right?
Yep. That's confirmation, man. So what is the one characteristic that you believe investors need to have in order to be successful?
Picking one's tough, but I would say resourcefulness. Well, my typical answer is discipline, right? I've said that on many podcasts and interviews, like discipline, right? You got to be disciplined to do the same thing every single day without fail. How many calls are you going to make? How many people are you going to meet? All that stuff. Because this game gets boring. You do the same crap every day. Like you have to learn to love it and all that to grow. But the other one is resourcefulness, because you don't know what it takes as you keep moving along. Like, how you got to where you're at, but you haven't experienced where you're going. And so you have to be resourceful and know that, I'm going into the unknown. I don't know how I'm going to navigate it, but I'm going to figure it out.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So Ryan, man, I want to appreciate it. So tell me, how can our guests find you? You on Instagram, Twitter, where are you at, man? So people can reach out to you.
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I post a lot on Instagram. If you go to All-Star Investor, you can find me on Instagram. And like we talked about, I have a few different businesses. If you're interested in coaching or stuff like that, you can go to futureflipper.com. If you're an agent in Vegas, we've got the brokerage, like I said, and that's Forever Home Realty. And you mentioned my CPA firm. We just launched that a month ago. That was kind of out of necessity for all, I think everyone obviously pays taxes. And I think from what I've seen in this business, it's probably the biggest need that most investors every year are asking, who's your CPA? And everyone's books are always jacked up. Nobody can properly keep them right. And so I ended up partnering with my accountant because I saw this over and over. If you guys are interested in bookkeeping or tax returns or CFO services, you guys can go to TrueBooksCPA.com.
Okay. TrueBooksCPA.com. And what's your social handles?
All-Star Investor.
All-Star Investor. So you guys got it. I'll make sure I have all of this information down in the show notes. Don't forget to go and get the book, Flip Your Future by Ryan. I'll make sure I have a link to that in the show notes as well, man. You guys bombard Ryan, help him out, get some information from him. He's definitely a professional, in the baseball world and in the flipping world. So if you got those questions that you need answered, make sure you reach out to Ryan. Ryan, lastly, before we go, man, any last words you would like to give our listeners?
Yeah, I guess I forgot to mention the most important thing. Like, if you guys are doing deals in Vegas or Tucson, or, you want to partner up or you want to wholesale, hit me up. That's the main business. All those other ones, they're great, but I'm an investor first and foremost.
All right, you heard that. So hit Ryan up. He's willing to partner with you on some deals. You never know. He said Tucson and Vegas. He might do some things in Atlanta, Memphis, Nashville, Cali. You never know. So just hit him up and we'll see where it goes. So Ryan, I want to appreciate you, man, talking to the We Love Equity listeners. And guys, you know to always remember to enjoy the journey. Signing off.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. So that was Ryan Pineda out of Las Vegas, Nevada. He's doing big things out there, guys. So make sure you go to the show notes, look at his information, get the book, Flip Your Future, especially if you want to learn. Why not learn from somebody that was doing, 100 deals a year, flipping, and now doing quite a bit of wholesaling. So again, this is Marcus Maloney. This is the We Love Equity Show signing off. We'd love for you to get in contact with me. You know how to reach me. We always have the 15-minute free consultation for you also to answer any questions. So feel free and love to talk to you, and we will see you on next week. Thank you for listening to today's show. I picked up some great actionable items, and I'm sure you did as well. If so, let me know. You can always reach me via social media at facebook.com/MRCS Maloney, Twitter at MRCS Maloney, and of course, IG at MRCS Maloney. You can also always reach me via email at mmaloney@equityri.com. Make sure you reach out to our guests as well. You can always find their contact information in the show notes below. If you have not subscribed already, what are you waiting for? Join the family. And while you're at it, leave us a 5-star review. This is how we tell if we're providing you with what you need for your journey. If there's someone you would like for me to interview, or if there's a subject matter you would like for me to cover, please let me know. Finally, if you're looking for additional information about real estate investing, go to equityrealestateblog.com. Also, youtube.com/Marcus Maloney. Until next time, family, always enjoy the journey.